this week's edition is Dynasty by Kiss. Our Kiss series, 7th album, studio album released by the band, May of 1979. After the infamous 4 solo albums that were released just September of 78 before that. Produced by Vinnie Panacea, who also produced Peter Criss's solo album. And I believe Gene and Paul liked the song Dirty Livin' so much that when Vinnie brought it to them for the Dynasty album, they decided at that point in time, with Peter's insistence, that they would have him as the producer for the record.
Yeah, that's a surprising choice too, because I mean, obviously Peter's solo album was the least successful of the 4. The fact that they would go with that producer, and you know, the rocky relationship between the band members, maybe they're trying to make peace by saying, okay, we'll bring Peter's guy in, maybe we can kind of get him back in the fold, worrying about things crumbling at that time. But it was a surprising choice.
And there was a lot of acrimonious feelings at the time. Peter had that car accident, right? So when he did play on this album, it was noted that Gene and Paul and Vinnie didn't feel that his drumming was up to snuff. So they brought in the South African Anton Fig, also known as David Letterman's and Paul Schaefer band. And he played on every track with the exception of Peter's only song, Dirty Livin', which we'll cover shortly. But you know, it was the return of Kiss, right? It was Super Kiss. This era of Kiss after the solo albums, after Double Platinum, after Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, all happening pretty much at the same time. They had taken that break. The last true studio album was Love Gun. That was in 77.
Yeah, 2 years. The longest they ever had a break between albums.
That's right. And at one point they were really releasing albums 2 per year. So yeah, there was kind of a bit of a gap. But again, the solo albums kind of took up some of that time. And you know, with this album, it was a top 10 hit. I think it reached number 9 on the Billboard charts. It had a top 20 song, number 11, with I Was Made for Loving You, which became their biggest international hit.
Shipped platinum. Album shipped platinum.
Yeah, and I think it's double platinum today. And you know, at the time I remember buying it and loving the cover, which is a really cool cover. Let's show the cover again. Really cool shot. This was, you know, filmed as an actual shot, and I think 2 of the members is from the original shot, and Paul, I think they had to impose a couple of different shots or change his hair or whatever else. But what I really loved about this was the poster that was inside, that had, you know, all 4 members in a row, and you know, with the black, you know, they originally had the straitjacket, you know, image that never was released because of the kids, right?
Yeah, again, Kiss, you know, I think complaining about the youth of their audience, but at the same time catering to them. A lot of their decisions from 77 on were, you know, they saw families coming to their concerts. They didn't want to turn them away. I mean, you got to embrace your audience. And so, yeah, the straitjacket shot was turned down for the cover because they worried that might be too risky for the kids at that time.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, and then obviously the colorful idea, you know, all the albums before that had the black, you know, we see, you know, the Hotter Than Hell image here with Gene and the Love Gun tour behind us, you know. I mean, even though there's some silvers, but it was always black and silver, you know. And then with Dynasty, there was a color that mirrored kind of the solo albums, right? With Ace, it was the blue, Paul was the purple, Gene with the red, and there's almost like a Godzilla suit, you know, with it looked like it was something forged out of concrete, and then Peter with the green and the cat. So it definitely was a poppier Kiss. And it was the introduction of synthesizers too. I mean, we talked before in our other series about the piano and songs like, you know, obviously Beth and the Orchestra or Christine 16 and Got Love for Sale. But with this one, this album has a couple of songs actually that have synthesizers, which is the first for the band.
Yeah, well, you know, they were just. This is the first time we see Kiss chameleon-like. Whatever's popular at the time, they're like, we can adjust. This was the first hint that Kiss wasn't going to go away. You know, through all their decades throughout their career, whether you had, you know, the hair metal that came through in the 80s or the grunge in the 90s, Kiss at least always made one album to try to cater to that, what was, you know, fashionable at the time or popular. And so, this album, very controversial for Kiss fans. A lot of Kiss fans love it or hate it. And again, because of my youth growing this up, this is probably one of my guilty pleasures. I really appreciate this album. I can imagine being, if I was a little bit older, feeling betrayed by Kiss, going through those classic hard rock albums, the first 4 albums before Alive, and now all of a sudden you've got disco on a Kiss album. I can understand the backlash.
And that's the catering that you're talking to, right? At the time, 1979, height of the disco era, and Paul being in Studio 54 saying, I could write a song like that, and he wrote I Was Made for Loving You. And it's unfortunate because that song was probably the only one, maybe Sure Know Something fit that era as well. But the rest of the album really is a rock album. From the 3 Ace songs, which is kind of a unique thing too, right? That was the first album after the success of his solo album. He wrote 3 of the songs, or performed 3 of the songs. One of them was a cover for the Rolling Stones. Gene only had 2 songs.
Yeah.
For a son, they only had 9 songs, and they had that gap of 2 years to come back with such a short album. I think the album's about just a touch under 40 minutes, so the song's a little bit longer. But the number of songs was surprising. I would have thought they would have maybe 10 or 11.
They would have had that 10 song.
Yeah, and at least they have a third one for Gene. Just the fact that he only had 2 songs on it, which both songs I really like a lot. One of them being Charisma is probably one of my favorite Gene songs ever. But
even with the even though there are some great rock songs, Hard Times, the production though of this album as a whole sticks to the whole disco vibe. Like they almost gave that 70s sound to the even the harder songs. Like the production value, you can kind of hear, like the album holds together well. As as I listen to this song and I hear song after song after song, I honestly think Paul Stanley sat down, put on Saturday Night Fever, and said, okay, I'm going to write my own soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever. And I'll touch on that when we get some of the songs, because I could totally see some of the scenes in the movie with these songs swapping out instead of Bee Gees. The famous thing is to take The Wizard of Oz and put on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd like to dub up Saturday Night Fever with some Kiss songs, and I'm telling you, I don't think you'd be able to say, hey, this works. I'm serious.
That is true. But we do love the album, right?
Yeah.
When this album came out, I was 8 years old. And for me, I suppose it was catering to me, right? It really blew out that whole comic book image of the band and catering to those younger fans, such as myself. Obviously it worked. I'm still a huge Kiss fan to this day, as you are.
Right. Yeah.
I suppose it's one of those things where I wish we could have seen them on tour. This was the last full tour with Peter Criss. Even though he didn't perform on the album, but for the one song, they had a 6-month tour that started in July and ran through the end of December. This is the infamous tour where Peter was purposely poorly playing, right, and sabotaging songs and sometimes the set, and the sales didn't go over as well. They had to cancel some shows due to poor ticket sales, and
which had to be just the total reality shock to the band. I mean, they were on top of the world 2 years earlier, and I don't think you see it happening as it does. And to put this album out rubbed a lot of their fans the wrong way, and they're like, oh, we're not going to come see it if you're going to play this.
Right. And there was a lot of complaints about the musicianship, specifically Peter, during the tour too.
Yeah.
So that never helps when that gets over. But there is one of the cool things about the tour was that they did play songs from the solo albums. Right?
Yes.
Peter played Tossin' and Turnin', Gene did Radioactive, Paul did Move On, Ace did New York Groove. It was the introduction of Gene Simmons' flying stunt, where he goes to the top of the stage. Yes. It was a first for Ace to bring out his lighted guitar for New York Groove, and also shoot the rockets. And there was even, I think, for Paul Stanley, there was discussions of him having a laser shoot out of his eye, similar to the movie Kiss Me the Phantom.
Right.
But they canceled at the last minute. So a couple of firsts for the tour.
They were afraid it was too dangerous. Like if he looked in the wrong direction, that laser might go in some fan's eye or something like that. So, would have been cool to see though.
Yeah. They only played I think one date, maybe 2 dates here in Chicagoland at the International Amphitheater. But that's okay. We were able to see him, on the reunion tour with the same original band members. But this was to be the coup de grace for Peter Criss and the band. They went on, obviously, to do Unmasked, of which he was still an official member, but he did play on that album. And they moved on with their card.
79 would mark the last year they all performed, the original lineup, until the 1996 reunion tour.
Yeah, of which we did see.
Yes.
Several times.
Of course.
Dynasty.
Right, let's get to the tracks. Alright, side 1, track 1, I Was Made for Love. As we mentioned earlier, reached number 11. I don't know what was going on to keep Kiss out of the top 10. Because this song fit in perfectly for the time. We mentioned also at this time Paul obviously hanging out with all the famous people at Studio 54, and you could just say, him watching all these DJs play all this music, and you could just tell he wanted them, I want to hear them play Kiss at Studio 54. And so this is what we came up with.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things about the song, besides the fact that it's a very disco-influenced tune, meeting like we just talked earlier about the 128 beats per minute, model. One of the cool things I like about the Dynasty album is that Gene Simmons' bass riffs, even though he doesn't play bass on any of Ace's songs, I don't think he actually played bass on I Was Made for Loving You, but the bass throughout the album stands out to me, and the bass line on I Was Made for Loving You is pretty cool as well. The guitar is just that, but the bass line is really kind of independent of the riff itself, and that's kind of prevalent throughout the album, which I found, kind of took me back to the old Kiss albums.
Yeah,
and then the first 3 albums when he had a tendency to do that, which I thought was pretty cool.
I think this, in an odd way, this is a song that got better with age. I can remember when Kiss brought this song back. I don't know exactly what tour, but they went forever without playing it, probably realizing they went away from their roots. But when they brought it back, it was just a fan favorite. Like, people would just start screaming, and Paul would actually sub this song out for Love Gun when he would get, his famous "I'm coming to see you," and he'd get up on his, I can't remember which tour it was, but he would.
Well, the Revenge album, I think.
Was it the Revenge one?
Because this "I Was Made for Loving You" was featured on Live 3.
Okay, that would make sense.
With the well-endowed, double bass of Eric Singer, it thumped and it sounded amazing. Like, if that version would have been on this album, wow.
Yeah.
Live, the song is incredible. I just think it comes back to some of the production challenges, or not challenges, but the production at the time. Vinnie Panacea, he was a pop guy, an R&B guy. He was famous for writing, with Ringo Starr in the 1970s. That was, I think he wrote with Paul's, Phil Spector, things like that. So, a lot of pop influences there, which I think obviously influenced the album itself.
Yeah, it's a great song. I include it on many a mixtape. It's not a song I would skip. It'll definitely change your mood. That comes on, it just kind of puts a little pep in your step, I guess.
It's a fun song, and it just brings back good memories.
All right, I Was Made for Loving You.
Song 2, Dynasty, 2000 Man. Cover from Mick Jagger and Keith Richards on their Satanic Majesty's Request album from 1967. I tell you what, the song itself is a sleeper for me. I do enjoy the Rolling Stones, but I don't think I ever heard of that song up until I heard this song by Ace Frehley. So it fits Ace very well. It just has that futuristic vibe, obviously, with the title. They're talking about computers and things of that nature, and I think Ace just nails it. I think it's one of his signature songs, one of my favorite songs. I loved it when they played it on the Unplugged album. He just has a really good riff. He just brought it to life, in my opinion, from that kind of sleepy version that the Rolling Stones did. One of my favorites.
He's definitely got a knack. When Ace picks a song to cover, rarely are covers ever better than the originals. Rarely, but Ace got a pretty good track record.
Yeah.
I thought New York Groove was better than the original, his version, and this one also.
Even on Anomaly, he did Fox on the Run by Sweet, which I thought was a great cover version. I agree. He has a tendency to pick good songs that fit him. and this song is probably the definitive one in terms of cover. I mean, I suppose New York Groove is really his song, the one that he's known for.
Yeah.
But this song for me is one of my favorite Ace songs. I enjoy the song much more than New York Groove.
I love the intro. It just I also give credit for Ace for not falling into the times. This is definitely not a disco song. I don't think he was trying to be heard on Studio 54 or there, but it again, it just puts me in a good mood. You just get that opening beat, and then he kicks in with it, you know, and it just.
One could argue that Ace is the one that probably kept the rock in this album.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
definitely.
the 3 songs that he did.
Yes.
You know, this album retained its rock semblance because of Ace.
Right.
2000 Man.
2000 Man. Okay, next song, side 1, track 3, Paul Stanley's Sure Know Something. And I sure know this was a pretty cool video.
It was cool.
I do like the video. I liked how they brought the album cover to life and had the 4 faces.
Yeah, zooming in.
And, you know, the faces kind of, not that this song at all remotely connects in any way to the Beatles, but that album cover has kind of a Meet the Beatles vibe with the 4 faces like that. And then when they just are in the background harmonizing, to me this is a song that I've appreciated more through the years as I've listened to it. I know I remember reading an article on Ultimate Classic Rock where he listed Paul Stanley's top 10 songs, and this was included there, and he said it was one of Paul's best songwriting efforts, which did kind of surprise me, but it's put together well. Totally disco, still going for Studio 54, but I have seen a number of critics say that this is a better song than I Was Made for Loving You. It's not just some dance riff, you know, this is, you know, a well put together tune.
I like the song a lot. I think Paul talked about the fact that he felt the demo version of this song and Magic Touch were much grittier. And again, it had that kind of cool Gene Simmons bass line we talked about before. You know, I thought the video for me is what makes the song. You know, the images of the video come to play for me. It was a second single released, and there were only 2 singles released from the album. This is the second one. A little bit of falsetto in Paul's voice. You know, for you, for sure Know Something resonates. For me, it's okay. This album, you know, proved to be more of a Gene and Ace album for me than it did a Paul, and I'm a big Paul fan. So, but you know, definitely a good tune, but not one of my favorites.
And going back to my Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, this is a song where to me, you know, John Travolta, he's the young kid dancing with the older woman, and in this song, you know, he was like, I was 17. To me, he's watching that movie writing this song. I can totally see John Travolta going in and out of rehearsal, his dance, More Than a Woman, sub this song in there for that, watch them spin around on the dance floor. I'm telling you, that's my theory. That's where this came from.
He was living in New York at the time too, so there's no doubt that there was an influence there from that era.
All right, song 3, Sure Know Something.
All right, here we are. Side 1, track 4, Dirty Livin'. Song written by Peter Criss with Stan Penridge back in the old Chelsea days. I think all of Peter's songs during the Kiss era were written before he actually became a member of Kiss. For me, it's a decent song. You know, it's not one that I'll immediately skip, but it's not one of my favorites either. Obviously, there's a lot of mixed reviews. It was his last official song with the band. It was a carryover from his studio solo album. You know, he was insistent on this one maintaining as much of its original demo form as possible. But it's okay. Again, the bass line, again, I keep coming back with the recurring theme here, stands out, and I'm sure you have some thoughts about the song as well.
Well, the production value to me gives it another disco vibe. And with the background singers and things like that, you know, and I can see those people in their polyester and the lights and the squares in the floor dancing to Dirty Livin'. It also you could throw it in my Saturday Night Fever soundtrack with, you know, John Travolta hustling throughout the day, carrying the paint can down the street, listening to this tune. Again, it's my conspiracy theory that this is the secret soundtrack, second soundtrack.
Maybe the bass line, because bass was so predominant in disco.
Yeah,
maybe
probably.
that's probably maybe some of the influence as well. But the guitar solo kind of had a cool little vibe
even the
too.
touch they put on the vocals, there's kind of like an echo, not necessarily an echo. I don't know the musical term. I'm not, you know, but it
Right.
just kind of has that, you know. They touched it up a bit. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, without question. You know, but hey, only Peter knows how to live dirty,
That's right.
and that's what this song's all about.
All right. Dirty Living. Alright, side 2 starts out with one of my favorite Gene songs. You might want to consider this a deep track. A lot of people, what is that? Who sings that? Never heard this song. But Kiss fans, I think, have to appreciate Charisma. And I love the groove to this song. I love the lyrics to the song. It might sound funny, but, you know, as he's questioning what is my charisma, it just shows you all the different things that people can look for in somebody outside of their physical appearance, you know, and he's going through a list, like, what is it that you like about me? And, you know, I love the production, the background vocals. I just think it's a very well put together song.
Yeah, I mean, it's no coincidence, Chuck, that the first song listed on the back of the album cover is Charisma. It's probably one of my favorite songs on the album. Probably one of my favorite Gene songs on the album. And I think he kind of took on a persona, right? The vocals for him on this song weren't typical of songs prior from the previous 6 studio albums. He kind of took on that, you know, Lothario, you know, sex god kind of thing, you know, image, and I think that's what he tried to portray in the song. It's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, the background vocals, the production, you know, the crunch of the guitar. It's just a cool tune. I like it.
More than any other member of the band, Gene writes these songs to sing directly to the female members in his audience.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Great Expectations, you know, he's singing right at them. He's looking right at them. He's singing these words, and that's, I think, the inspiration for a lot of his songwriting.
It's a good tune.
Good tune.
Plain and simple.
Charisma.
Alright, side 2, song 2, Magic Touch. The only song written by Paul Stanley on this record by Paul Stanley. The other 2 songs on the record were written with Vinnie Poncia, and then I Was Made for Loving You was written by the infamous Desmond Child. Magic Touch for me, a bit of a skip for me. It's nothing bad about the song, it just doesn't really stand out. It's one of those songs on this record that I could do with or without listening to. You know, again, he's hitting that falsetto much more on this record, and that's evident on this song as well.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I don't have much to say about this song. I don't care for it. Not one of his finer efforts. It does fit in with the feel of the album, but this is not a track I pull up on my iPod very often.
and following, you know, the song Charisma, you know, and then we'll get into like one of our favorite songs coming up next. Right. You know, just it side 2 just doesn't fit with this song. You know, if we strip this song off of side 2, I think the album would, or this side would be, for me, probably one of my favorite back sides of the Kiss catalog.
Yeah. Kick this song to the end of the album.
Or side 1 after Dirty Living.
Yeah, exactly. Because they only had 4 songs. All right,
Magic Touch.
Magic Touch. All right, side 2, song 3. Maybe the best song on the album. Certainly the hardest rocker on the song, on the album.
No pun.
No pun intended. Hard Times, Ace Frehley. My only question is, what would this song have sounded like had it been on Hotter Than Hell? You know, or had it been on Dressed to Kill? The fact that you've got such a heavy song, I don't know what the production did to it, but I still love it. It's still a rocker.
It is, semi-autobiographical. I didn't pronounce that right, but that's okay. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's a good tune, just a gritty song. And again, Ace brings the rock to this album. I love this song. I love all the songs on this record from Ace Frehley. I know you have a difference of opinion for the last song, but I just dig it. Solo's great. The crunch of the guitar is great. His lead vocals is great. Plays bass on it. For me, this is one of the standouts from the history of Kiss with Ace Frehley.
Yeah, throughout the band's history, a lot of times the members will be brutally honest. Gene will say, I got to give credit to Paul during the 80s. I wasn't carrying my weight, but for both the band members to be worried about Ace and where he was going at this time, he seemed to be the only one who was being true to the roots of the original band.
Yeah. I mean, and he says so in a number of interviews that he felt that the direction that they were going in, with "I Was Made for Loving You" and some of the disco theme stuff that we talked about before, just wasn't for him, and he wanted to keep the rock.
Yeah.
And his confidence was at an all-time peak as well, coming off the success of his solo album.
Yeah.
So, great tune.
Great tune.
Hard Times.
Hard Times.
All right, side 2, song 4, X-Ray Eyes, Gene Simmons, second of only 2 songs on the whole album. I actually like the song. It's not as strong as Charisma, but I do like X-Ray Eyes. It's hit or miss, I suppose, with me and some of the Gene Simmons songs. Some of them are just some of the best in the entire catalog, like Deuce or Unholy. And then you have songs like, X-Ray Eyes or Got Love for Sale that are okay. But, for me, since there's only 2 Gene songs on the album, I actually do like it and, kind of lends itself to the side 2 vibe that we had and, kind of carrying through. So, not a bad song, but it's not really a standout per se.
Yeah, if I were grading X-Ray Eyes, I'd give it a C. To me, it's much like Paul's Magic Touch. I don't hit skip on the song right away, but it's not a song I'm gonna pull from this album and put on, playlist or anything like that.
If you were to just skip, you'd only hear one Gene Simmons.
Yeah, true. But it is what it is. It just doesn't do much for me. X-Ray Eyes,
sweet and simple.
Alright, final song, side 2. Another Ace Frehley tune, his third of the album, Save Your Love. For me, the least favorite Ace song for me on this song, actually one of my least favorite Ace songs.
Oh!
I just don't, it just doesn't do much for me. I think it has to do with the background vocals and the whole save,
That's
just,
Paul.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't do it for me, and it's not as hard as a lot of Ace's songs. Ace is at his best when he's kicking ass, and this song to me doesn't kick ass.
No, I actually enjoy the song a lot. This is one of my favorite Ace albums, in terms of production and outputs for Kiss. I actually enjoy the song a lot. Could be maybe because I'm always thinking of some ex-girlfriend, right? So long, save your love, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Maybe it resonated from the lyrics side, and I'm generally not a lyrics person, whereas you're more the lyrics guy of the two of us. So I dig it. He gets right into it. The vocals come out right off the cuff. There's no lead into it at all. I think it's a good end to the album myself. I love the solo on the song. So yeah, for me, I do actually enjoy this Ace Frehley song. Not as much as Hard Times, not as much as 2000 Man, but I do enjoy the song, and I don't ever skip over this one myself.
All right. Save your love.
Save some love for Ace Frehley, Chuck.
Always.
All right, Vinyl Vagrant fans, that's a wrap for the Dynasty album. Chuck, a few final thoughts on this record from you. One thing I do want to mention when we're discussing I Was Made for Loving You, it was also co-written by Desmond Child. who Kiss brought back for a number of albums, including Animalize, Asylum, Crazy Nice, Hot in the Shade. He wrote,
maybe the fifth member of Kiss.
Yeah, he wrote a number of hit songs for Bon Jovi, among others. So just a shout out to Desmond Child, because he did have a significant influence on the band. But if you could give me your top 3 faves and your top 1 throwaway, what would they be?
All right. Well, my top 2 are pretty easy. And given any day, I might flip flop them. Which one's number 1? Which one's number 2? But I'm gonna go Hard Times number 1. I'm gonna go Charisma number 2. And then if I had to pick a third place finisher, I think I'd actually go with Sure Know Something.
Okay. What about your throwaway?
Throwaway. This record, there are a few throwaways, but I think if there was one I could get rid of first, it would probably be Magic Touch.
Okay. All right. Well, for me, my throwaway, what's going to be Magic Touch?
Okay. All right. Well,
this isn't rehearsed, folks. We like to keep some elements of surprise here. So for me, my throwaway is Magic Touch. I think my favorite song on the album is probably 2000 Man.
Okay.
I love Hard Times, and I enjoy Charisma a lot. So we have a couple of shared interests there. Again, it's the return of Kiss, Super Kiss. The costumes, the color, the tour, everything was grand in style and pomp, and and I think unfortunately it was probably overdone, as we've seen. Now that we've here, 30 years later, after the record, came out, if not 40 years, what the true impact of this record would have on the general Kiss fandom. And but still, one of my, I love Kiss, we love Kiss,
yes.
So this album always stands out. I know this is always one of your go-to records, and I've enjoyed this series.
I think the best of the album just sounds so good cranked up in the car that it outweighs some of the weaker songs, and it's one I put on when I'm looking to lift my mood.
And you know what? One final thing. I think the vinyl listening of this album is inherently better than the one in the car.
Hence vinyl Vagrants. Exactly. In fact, I found a good copy of this at an old used record shop, and it just popped off the needle, and it's like, dang, this is a good album. It sounds so much better than my CD.
I remember you saying that, and the crackles and just the vibe and the tone, the colors, no pun, the sounds that just come out of it. I think is one of the reasons why this album has stood out and stood the test of time for us.
All right. Until next time, Vinyl Vagrant fans, keep your turntable spinning.
This is Chuck. I'm John. Keep rocking.